Imagine a shadowy figure stalking the foggy streets of London, leaving behind a trail of unsolved murders. This is the chilling tale of Jack the Ripper, a specter who haunted the late 19th century, a time of profound change and stark contrast. In the heart of the British Empire, the city of London was a bustling metropolis. Horse-drawn carriages clattered down cobblestone streets, gas lamps cast eerie glows on foggy nights, and the air buzzed with the chatter of the multitudes. Yet, beneath the veneer of progress, a darker reality lurked. Poverty was rampant, and the overcrowded slums of the East End were a breeding ground for crime and despair. It was against this backdrop that Jack the Ripper emerged, an unseen phantom who left an indelible mark on the annals of crime. His deeds were brutal, his identity, a mystery that continues to perplex us even today. In the heart of this bustling city, a predator was about to emerge from the shadows. On a fateful night in August 1888, the first victim fell prey to this unknown assailant. In the dimly lit streets of Whitechapel, London, a tragedy unfolded that would send shockwaves through the community. The victim was Mary Ann Nichols, a woman of 43 years, whose life had been marked by hardship and struggle. She was discovered in the early hours of the morning, her body bearing the brutal marks of a vicious attack. The nature of the crime was unlike anything the community had ever seen. The brutality, the violence, and the sheer horror of it were enough to chill the blood of even the most hardened Londoner. Mary Ann Nichols was not just killed, she was mutilated in a way that suggested a level of savagery that was almost unthinkable. News of the murder spread like wildfire, igniting a spark of fear that would soon engulf Whitechapel. People whispered of a monster, a phantom lurking in the shadows, preying on the vulnerable. The thought was terrifying, yet there was something even more unnerving about this crime. It was the calculated precision, the deliberate nature of it, that suggested this was not the work of a mindless brute, but of a clever and cunning predator. As the community grappled with the shock and the grief, the police were left scrambling for answers. They were dealing with a crime of such horrific magnitude that it seemed almost beyond comprehension. Yet, even as they delved into the grim details of the case, they remained largely in the dark. The identity of the killer was as elusive as a wisp of smoke, disappearing into the foggy London night. The murder of Mary Ann Nichols marked the beginning of a reign of terror. It was the first in a series of crimes that would shake the community to its core and leave an indelible mark on the annals of criminal history. It was a stark reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of society, of the evil that men are capable of when they are consumed by their darkest desires. Little did they know, this was only the beginning of a reign of terror. As the body count rose, a chilling pattern began to emerge. As gruesome as the initial murders were, the subsequent ones took a darker turn, displaying a level of brutality that would become synonymous with the Ripper's infamous signature. Every victim, all prostitutes from the impoverished East End, were discovered in the early morning hours, their bodies horrifically mutilated. The graphic nature of these crimes suggested a killer with a deep-seated hatred and a perverse delight in his grim work. These weren't just murders, they were messages, twisted displays of power and control. The Ripper seemed to have an understanding of human anatomy, with some speculating he could have been a butcher, a surgeon, or even a medical student. He didn't merely kill his victims, he dissected them with an almost surgical precision. Organs were removed, bodies were eviscerated, and in one case, the victim's face was savagely slashed, her features rendered unrecognizable. There was a cold, methodical nature to these killings that was deeply unsettling. The Ripper didn't just take lives, he staged grotesque scenes for those unlucky enough to discover his victims. The audaciousness of his crimes, the audacity of his methods, and his seeming invincibility only served to heighten the terror that gripped Whitechapel and beyond. As the murders continued, the police were at a loss. Despite their best efforts, they were always one step behind, always arriving at the scene of the crime after the Ripper had made his gruesome mark and disappeared into the London fog. The Ripper seemed to revel in his notoriety, taunting the authorities with his audacious murders and eluding capture with an ease that was as chilling as it was baffling. These weren't random acts of violence. Each murder was a calculated act, a deliberate display of dominance and terror. And with each new victim, the Ripper's signature became more defined, his message clearer. He was a predator, prowling the streets of London, hunting the vulnerable, and leaving a trail of blood in his wake. The city was gripped by fear, but the Ripper was far from finished. Then, as if the murders weren't horrifying enough, letters began to arrive. They were chilling correspondences, allegedly written by Jack the Ripper himself. Among these ominous missives, two stand out: the From Hell letter and the Dear Boss letter. Each one in its own way contributing to the growing maelstrom of fear and fascination that was sweeping through Victorian London at the height of the Ripper's reign of terror. The From Hell letter was received by George Lusk, the head of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee. It came with a small box containing half a human kidney, purportedly from one of the Ripper's victims. The letter's macabre contents and the gruesome gift that accompanied it stirred up a frenzy of fear, sending shivers down the spines of London's denizens like a cold wind blowing through the city's darkened alleyways. Then there was the Dear Boss letter, sent to the Central News Agency. It was here that the name Jack the Ripper was first used, a moniker that would forever be etched into the annals of criminal history. The letter was brimming with bravado and chilling details of the murders, a taunting challenge to the authorities who seemed powerless to stop the Ripper's ghastly spree. But were these letters truly from the Ripper, or were they the work of some deranged copycat, or even a media hoax? The debate over their authenticity rages on even today, more than a century later. Some believe they were genuine, the twisted ramblings of a deranged mind. Others argue they were fabrications, designed to stoke the fires of public fear and fascination, to sell newspapers and keep the story alive. Regardless of their origin, the impact of the letters was undeniable. They added a new level of psychological terror to the Ripper's crimes, a macabre dimension of torment that went beyond the physical horror. The letters served as a chilling reminder that the Ripper was still out there, lurking in the shadows, ready to strike again. The letters added a new level of terror to the Ripper's crimes, a psychological torment to go with the physical horror. In November 1888, the murders abruptly stopped. An eerie silence fell over the Whitechapel district, a stark contrast to the terror that had reigned just days before. The final act of this macabre play, the murder of Mary Jane Kelly, was perhaps the most gruesome of them all. Yet just as suddenly as they began, the killings ceased, leaving behind a city scarred and a mystery unsolved. This abrupt end has puzzled historians and enthusiasts alike. Was Jack the Ripper apprehended for a different crime, vanishing into the annals of the penal system, or did he perhaps meet an untimely end, his reign of terror cut short by some twist of fate? Some even suggest he might have left London carrying his dark predilections to foreign soil. As for the identity of Jack the Ripper, theories abound. Some propose he was a surgeon, given the precision of the mutilations. Others suggest a butcher or a tanner, professions that would afford knowledge of anatomy and access to sharp tools. A few even pointed fingers at members of the upper class, a royal physician among them. Yet despite countless investigations and innumerable theories, the true identity of Jack the Ripper remains shrouded in mystery. Frustratingly elusive, he has become more than just a historical figure. He is the embodiment of an unsolved mystery, a symbol of the darker side of humanity that lurks in the shadows. Over the years, the legend of Jack the Ripper has only grown, fueled by a morbid fascination with his gruesome deeds and the enigma surrounding his identity. The figure of the Ripper has permeated popular culture, finding his way into books, movies, and even video games. His tale, a chilling reminder of a time when horror walked the streets of London, continues to captivate and terrify us. Despite the passage of time, the specter of Jack the Ripper continues to haunt us. His story, a chilling chronicle of unbridled brutality and cunning evasion, remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in criminal history. The end, or perhaps just the beginning. Over a century later, the name Jack the Ripper still sends shivers down our spines. A name synonymous with fear and mystery, the Ripper's legacy is a haunting echo in the annals of criminal history. His story continues to fascinate us, a blend of the macabre and the inexplicable that has permeated every facet of popular culture. From books to films, TV shows to songs, the Ripper's tale is retold and reimagined, each iteration a testament to our enduring fascination with the unknown, and yet, the Ripper's true identity remains a mystery. Despite countless theories and unending investigations, we're no closer to unmasking the face behind the moniker. The Ripper has become more than a criminal. He's an enigma, a specter that embodies our deepest fears and our relentless pursuit of truth. The legacy of the Ripper is a chilling reminder of our fascination with the dark corners of the human psyche. In the end, Jack the Ripper remains an enigma, a symbol of our darkest fears and our obsession with the unknown.